Hello, my name's Michael Erskine, and this is a video on making freestyle skateboard skid plates. So here I am at the my local hack space, Nottingham hack space, where I'm using the laser cutter to cut out some MDF templates that are exactly the right size for the skid plates that I want to make. It also has the exact locations for the bolt holes, which are important for getting everything lined up correctly. So here I'm cutting out the templates out of 9mm MDF, and the laser cutter has no trouble cutting through that usually. I'm cutting out the outer templates, which is a rectangle that I'll use later for aligning skid plates for laser etching. Those logos here, the Never Enough Skateboards logo, gets etched onto the final skid plates, which are made out of plastic and not out of MDF. The MDF is just for a template, although I have skated MDF skid plates and they're okay if a bit unusual to skate on. They wear down quick, but they're effectively free. The material is inexpensive and we have lots of scraps at the hack space, and they are quick to cut out, very little work. Okay, so that's how long it takes to cut out a template. The templates have all been designed on the computer, based on drawings that people have sent me for exact shapes that they need for their freestyle boards. So here I'm making skid plates for Never Enough Skateboards in Germany. Christian Heiser there. Hello, Christian. And he's had me make a whole bunch of them. Here I'm using, this is a white ultra high molecular weight polyethylene. The white skid plates are the most expensive ones to buy the material for, because it's a food grade material in the white, whereas both the green and black material that I also use, those are a recycled material. I think the black is the most hard wearing, but I've yet to properly test the white. The white is the nicest, most elegant looking. So once I've measured out a strip that I'll fit 4 skid plates on, it's 2 of the tailbone shapes and 2 of the nose bone shapes that I make for Christian at Never Enough. I cut out a strip. I cut a strip off the plastic that I can more easily work with on the other tools. I'll take off the burrs so that it will sit flat against any reference surfaces that I need for the further stages. So I get myself exactly the right sized drill bit. Here I'm using a 4mm drill bit for cutting the locations of the bolt holes. For the skid plates that I make for my friends and I use myself, I use 4mm machine screws that go into the sort of classic sex bolt type bolts for attaching them to the board. Here I'm using 4mm holes to locate these templates in exactly the right place on this strip of material, so that I can fit just enough, so I can fit them all on this strip. So here I'm alternating a wide tailbone with a narrower nose bone, and I can fit 4 along this 500mm strip. 500mm wide, it's 45mm tall. Here I'm just making sure that I can fit them all in a decent location, and once I've done this step, using the bolts to hold them in exactly the right place, they fit snugly into those holes and into the plastic. Once I've got them in exactly the right place, I can then cut them out roughly on the bandsaw. So the workshop that I'm at there is Nottingham Hackspace. It's a classic hackerspace, one of the biggest in Europe. We've got about 500 members. It's a massive workshop with lots of excellent tools. Before I'm one of the original former members, founder members of the Nottingham Hackspace. Before we had this, I had to have all these tools myself at home, and there wasn't very much room in my shed. Yeah, so here I'm using the small bandsaw to cut close, but not too close to the template. Take off as much of the waste material as possible, because the next stage on the router table is what will get the what will cut the skid plates to their final size. That is exactly the right size, exactly flush with the template. So these MDF templates I reuse. I'll probably reuse them about 5 or 6 times before I'll cut some new ones on the laser cutter. Because the bolt holes get a little bit loose, and you don't want these, you don't want the material moving about on the back of the templates when they're on the router table. They have to be held very tightly to the templates. So this is the major stage, what we've been leading up to. The router table here, it's a cast iron bed, and there is a router mounted upside down with the cutting bit sticking through a small hole in the table. So the cutting bit is a straight cutting bit with a bearing on the top. And the bearing goes against runs against the template. I hold the template and the material tight down to the bed of the router table while I run it around the outside. And this is quite a scary process, because that cutting bit is spinning really fast, and it's really sharp. And I did have some problems early on with getting kickback from the cutting bit. Not exactly sure why, but I think my technique has improved quite a bit over the past year or so. Okay, so this takes off all the material to get them exactly the right shape. But there's still a lot of work to do. I think on one of these skid plates, I'm only cutting out 4 here. I do experience a bit of the nasty kickback that you get sometimes when the cutting bit grabs the material, and some materials are worse than others for getting this kickback. So Yeah, so when that happens, it's pretty scary. Yeah, you don't really want to get your fingers too close to the blade, and it can cut chunks out of the piece of work that you're doing and ruin it for you. I don't have that many ruined skid plates that I've made, but when I do ruin a skid plate, I make the best of it and then I'll use it myself. So the skid plates can now be removed from the templates and move on to the next stage. So here I'm cutting countersinks for the bolts. I use countersunk machine bolts for the UK market. I use a 4mm bolt. Christian wants 5mm bolts. He supplies his own bolts for the Never Enough skateboard skid plates, and so later on I'll re-drill the holes to 5mm for him. So the countersinking's done by eye, and I'm quite consistent with it now. So this stage is using a 45-degree cutting bit on the router table to cut a chamfer on the back edge of the skid plate. So it's a bit easier on the hands for finger flips and whatnot. It's not on the edge that wears down, it's on the edge that's closer to the truck, away from the edge of the board, from the end of the board rather. So that's quite a quick stage, but it requires a lot of setup, so it's a hassle to do. So here I'm using a linisher. It has an abrasive belt. It's running at quite a rate, and here I'm taking off any sharp bits. So where the chamfer transitions to the edge of the skid plate, that needs grinding down, and then any burrs and what have you, I'll take off major bits here, and then further burrs I'll remove by hand. It gives the skid plates a nice finish, and I think people appreciate it. Okay, here I'm finishing all the sketchy bits, the flash and the burrs that result from the routing process. So I'm just using a Stanley knife, a very sharp blade, to scrape away the little bits of plastic. And that's my friend Toby who's doing the filming. This was last Saturday at the Hackspace. He kindly did these video clips that I've pasted together on Google's own YouTube editor. So I do spend a fair bit of time making each skid plate as nice and polished as possible.
Feels a little bit like I'm filming your crotch right now.
So we're almost finished. Here I'm using again the laser cutter. Here I've got a bunch of the green coloured skid plates, and I have them in the template for that shape. The MDF templates that you saw me cutting some of earlier, and the laser cutter is running an etch program to etch the Never Enough Skateboards logo. Now the reason why I'm not able to use the laser cutter to actually cut out the skid plates, I did try that, but the material is, the polyethylene material is way too melty to be used in the laser cutter. It does cut, but it immediately fuses back to itself. Okay, that's about all the video footage I have. I shall put up another video showing how the skid plates are put on and used. Okay, thank you, bye.